Hey, good morning, folks. Just a quick message. Today's June 6th, and I don't know why, but June 6th always stirs up emotions in me. And I just want to draw you a picture. So I just walked around the acreage and I went to look at how things were on the acreage this morning, and everything's fine. But I can't help but imagine what it would have been like in 1944 if I lived on this acreage. I have four kids. I have an oldest daughter, Sarah, who's 27, and then Nick's 21, Patrick is 20, and Ray is 17. So if today was 1944, Karen and I would be parents who, in all likelihood, would have two kids out in the European theater, or maybe in Japan. So Nick and Patrick would most likely have enlisted in the army and be overseas fighting, and Ray, 17, would be asking for our permission to enlist early. And back in those days, as Canadians, we would have already put our life on hold for 5 years, and we'd be rationing fuel and foods, and all our effort would be going to the war effort. And we wouldn't be getting a lot of news from overseas. Patrick and Nick would send us maybe letters once in a while. It would be highly censored, and we wouldn't be picking up phones or the internet or getting a lot of information. We just wouldn't know as parents in 1944. And on this day in particular, we wouldn't have even known that D-Day had occurred. So it's currently, it's 7:21 here in Alberta, which means that the invasion, if it was 1944, the invasion occurred 7 or 8 hours ago, and we didn't even know about it because it's not on the news. And for all we know, Nick and Patrick, or one or the other, or some of their friends, could have been killed while storming the beaches. So, and if one of our sons had died storming the beaches, again, we wouldn't know it until many days later, when we might get a telegram or something like that. So just wanted to put that out there as a reminder to everyone that the events of 1944, D-Day, was 77 years ago, and it was a tragic, tragic war. I mean, it was a war started by a lunatic named Hitler, who somehow or other convinced an entire population that he was their savior, that he was going to help them economically, and in so doing created false enemies, and the man was a monster who created a war that ultimately killed 200 million people. And back here in Canada, the entire nation put their life on hold for basically 6 years, but over almost 1 million young Canadian men went overseas and walked away from their farms and their future careers and their future families and everything else to go fight a tyrant. And luckily we won. And we won these hard fought freedoms. And so these young men, Canadians, Americans, Brits, from all over the world, fought tyrants and preserved our freedoms. And so don't forget that. So what's the best thing we can do? What's the best thing we can do today is to remember those brave young men and the families and the survivors, because everybody battled, but let's honor their sacrifice by making sure that we continue to fight for those freedoms. So don't give up your freedoms, people. Don't give up your freedoms, and don't let lunatic politicians take us down these evil paths again. So, end of politics for today. Just take a moment. Here's some sounds of my acreage and the birds singing, and just pause for a moment and remember the sacrifices of some brave young men 77 years ago.